Greetings everyone, welcome back to my channel with another episode of What's New with Human Design. These are the transits of the sun and the earth around the human design mandala. I'm so glad that you're here today, and we have a couple of really important subjects to talk about. Right now and through Friday, the sun is lighting up the gate 31 and the earth is lighting up the gate 41. I talked about both of these gates in last week's episode, so you might want to go and check that out. We're going to dive into one of the themes that really arises when the gate 31 is lit up. The gate 31 in traditional human design is known as democratic leadership, and in quantum human design is known as democracy. It's on the throat center, which is the center for self-expression and initiation and manifestation. This is a super powerful gate, which is why I want to dive into it a little bit more today. What do you think of when you think of leadership or leaders? Do you think of presidents or dictators or maybe CEOs, the heads of companies or the heads of organizations? Definitely these are all leaders in one sense of the term. I want to invite you to be leaning into your understanding about leadership and your understanding about your own leadership. My perspective is that right now in the world, we need you, we need everyone to be leaning into more leadership. We're living in a really unprecedented time. Yes, there's the COVID pandemic, which unfortunately is still happening, but there's also climate change. I live in California and I live in the fire zone, and the West Coast is on fire even early this year, starting early in July. You know, the planet is burning up. We have got some real issues that we need to face. You know, there are floods in China, in Germany, many parts of the world. So the earth is screaming out to us, if you will, with the consequences, with the type of leaders that have been in leadership positions. For the most part, our leaders have really believed in the story of progress. They have believed that we can take resources from the planet in a virtually infinite way. We haven't really grappled with the impact of what we've been doing on our environment and on our world. The cutting down of the forests, the damming of the rivers, the creation of plastics and of gas and oil, digging deep down into the earth to be taking these so-called natural resources. And we haven't really grappled with that. We haven't really looked it straight in the eye. Now, I know looking at that can be overwhelming. I completely get it. Because if you were to really open your eyes to all of the things that you might want to change happening on the planet right now, you might want to just crawl inside your bed and pull the covers over your head. Like, I get that. And we need to develop the ability, the capacity, if you will, to find our own individual role in helping to transform our world. What that role is for you may be partly based in your human design. I know as a generator, my role in the collective is to build. It's to create. It's to build. That's why I create videos like this. It's why I write books. It's why I create programs. And so I'm in the process of building and creating because that's part of my human design. It's part of my character. Depending on your human design type, you would have a different role. So for manifestors, they're here to initiate projects that people like me, generators, then get to respond to. Projectors are here to help organize and manage generators and manifesting generators. Manifesting generators are a little bit of a mix between generators and manifestors. And so they're here really to do a lot of the work of the world and to initiate projects. And reflectors are here to reflect back to us the health and the well-being of our community. I would imagine that some reflectors are having a really hard time now because we do have a challenged collective in terms of our well-being. My invitation to you this week is to lean into the energy of that gate 31, which is democracy, democratic leadership, and to see where can you step up more in your leadership. what might that look like? You might do that in your family. There may be ways that you're not fully showing up as the leader you could be in your family. Could be in your community, could be with a child's school, could be in your religious community or your spiritual community. It could be in, like for me, I'm part of a dance community, could be in your town, could have to do with local politics. It could have to do with some kind of environmental action that you want to take. I heard Katrina Blair speak on the Accidental podcast. I highly recommend that podcast. And she is a wild and raw food expert, and she does a lot of education and creates products in that industry. But what really inspired me that I want to share with you today is she talked about an action that people in her own community did, where they approached their city council with the intention to turn all of their city parks organic, to end the spraying of any pesticides or herbicides, and to instead turn the parks organic. The city council said, we'll give you one park. And so they did. They took a park and they turned it organic, and it was a huge success. People in the town really loved it. Then they went back to the city council and they asked to do it with the rest of the park. So they were able to negotiate in an ongoing way to be taking a park here or there. Of course, there was resistance for a variety of reasons. Part of it had to do with golf courses and the relationship between golf courses and city parks. All of that aside, they've made a lot of headway in terms of reducing the toxic load of their city because they turn their city parks organic. This creates a much healthier, a much safer environment for everyone who participates in city parks, and particularly for the children. This is an example of a small scale and yet impactful form of leadership that Katrina Blair took in her town. Other people participated in this with her. So my question to you, or my invitation to you, is what could you do in your immediate environment, whether that's literally in your own home or whatever other groups that you're a part of, or around causes that you care about? What can you do? How can you step up your engagement just that much more? You have all the support that you need right now in that gate 31 being lit up by the sun in order to move forward with that. The 31 is also supported by the earth being in the gate 41, which is the gate of fantasy or imagination. And so I encourage you just to let your imagination run wild and then pour it into this question about where can you express your leadership more. On Saturday, the sun will move into the gate 33 and the earth will move into the gate 19. We have storytelling reemerging here. We've been talking about storytelling over the last few weeks. So the gate 33 it's also on the throat. So it's also about expression, initiation, and manifestation. And the energy of this has to do with using your own personal story or tapping into one way of telling your story that can give a benefit to the whole, that can serve the larger whole. So it's not just about you being able to tell your story for your own self-expression, but about how can you use your own life experience, the wisdom that you have developed over the course of your life, to tell a story from your own experience that can help everyone to understand their own selves better, that can illuminate something for other people, that you have now given them either a window onto that, or you've given them permission to be able to open up in a certain area, whatever that might be for you. So that's the energy that we're going to be going into over the weekend, and it'll carry through into next week. So I encourage you, even as you're working with this leadership energy, to also be considering what from your own life experience, what story might you tell that could feed into your leadership? Because I think that for most of us, our draw into leadership, and I don't mean leadership with, in all caps, right? I mean leadership about taking actions to move forward towards an end that is meaningful and significant to you. So as you are leaning into that gate 33 and that storytelling, the ability to look into your life experience and have something to share with others, that can be something that can support your leadership as even the sun moves out of the gate 31, but carrying it forward, because I think most of us move forward in leadership in some way, move forward with actions to help to transform our world for the better because of something that matters personally to us. Right? It's something that touches us in our heart, something that touches our children or our loved ones or people in our community, or that has mattered to us. So take a look at that for yourself and see what story might be alive for you in that way. And look, if you want to, for the right situation to share it with others, with the right people at the right time, when they're really listening and they're really ready to pay attention to what it is that you have to say. Because when you share a story and people aren't listening, it's super frustrating, and you don't want to do that. You're just going to end up being upset. So pick the right time, the right people, the right place, the right situation. And when you do, it will elevate and support other people. And if you do that around a topic having to do with how you've taken more leadership in your life, and maybe how you've used your imagination to imagine new forms of leadership, this is something that can help to evolve our world. So I want to invite you to play around with this. Don't make it heavy. Don't make it a job or a task you have to do, but just something that you can mull over, and you can write about it in your journal. You can talk about it when you're out on a walk. You can share with the people who matter to you in your life. You can write a blog about it. You can shoot a video about it if you want to. Any way that you want to be able to express this. Now, the sun in the gate 33 is being supported by the earth in the gate 19. Now, the gate 19 is a very interesting gate. Saturn has been in the gate 19 since the middle of June. And Saturn is one of our great teachers. Saturn kind of gets a bad rap. But what Saturn really wants us to do is to learn. He's here to teach us to learn incrementally, step by step by step, that we break learning down into digestible bits and move forward with it. That's really what Saturn's about. It's when we're rejecting what Saturn wants us to learn that Saturn can get more intense and can start kind of, knocking on the door, beating down the door. But when you pay attention to what Saturn wants you to pay attention to, and this is in your chart or in the transits, then Saturn is actually a big support for us. So Saturn in the gate 19. The gate 19 is a very, very sensitive gate. It's the most sensitive gate in the chart. And people who have this defined in their chart tend to be very sensitive people, even highly sensitive people. They often are sensitive in multiple ways. Sometimes that has to do with sound. Occasionally it has to do with light. Sometimes it has to do with fabrics, if you're one of those people who cuts the labels out of your clothing. And so they can be sensitive to other people, sensitive to energies. And we don't really have a good way of talking about sensitive people in our culture. A lot of times we equate sensitivity with weakness, which I think is really too bad, because sensitivity also means that we have a more subtle and a more refined way of picking up on whether it's sensual, right? Or whether it's energetic. And so we want to be learning how to use our sensitivity in ways that support us. We want to be learning to value our sensitivity and to value the people in our communities who are sensitive. I'm not a highly sensitive person, but I'm sensitive in certain kinds of ways. And I've spent a lot of my life learning how to honor the aspects of my sensitivity. So the fact that the Earth is here now, it's going to be grounding what Saturn's been teaching us over these last 6 weeks or so. So with the Earth there, it's like, how can we ground this sense of sensitivity? How can we get in our bodies to experience it and to feel it? how can we, with the blessing of the earth, really honor our sensitivity so that we can feel like, oh, what's going on over there? It's not so great. I don't really want to interact with that. Or, oh, that's awesome. I really want to engage in that. It feels so good. My invitation to you is to be leaning into whatever sensitivity you can feel that's heightened over that period, those 5 or 6 days, when the earth is going to be in the 19, to see how can you be more subtle, how can you be more refined in terms of picking up things, both with your senses, what we think of as your 5 senses, and also with your energetic senses, and even with your 6th sense, your psychic abilities. How can you work with that? And as you do that, you can see how that then supports whatever story it is that you want to be telling. And also, how does that support your leadership? Right? So you can start to see how tuning into these different aspects of the human design chart as they're being lit up by the sun and the earth so that everybody gets to feel them. And particularly the people who don't have them defined in their charts, if it's white in your chart, you're going to experience it more in some ways than people who have it defined or colored in, because they always have those energies available to them. For the people who have it defined or colored in, it means that you can shift. Let's say that you've had a negative association with sensitivity. Well, while the earth is there, you have the opportunity to help shift your relationship to that and move more into honoring your own sensitivity. Does that make sense? So looking at how you can be tuning into these transits to support you in areas of your life that you're already engaged in and where you also want to expand. I invite you to be tuning into your leadership, and you might want to take a look at how have you already been expressing leadership in your life in some ways, in unconventional ways, okay? And then what could be the next step for you around that? Because my feeling is that we need all of us to be taking these next steps in order for us to be able to create the change that we really need so that we can heal our planet, so that we can heal each other, and so that we can truly thrive here together. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe, and please do tell your friends. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now.